everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. Today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees the new film Lisa Frankenstein. Interesting that there's now a Lisa Frankenstein, and then also this film Poor Things, which have a very similar subject matter with the whole Frankenstein remake, reimagining stuff. So it'll be interesting to see exactly who does better as far as bringing out a new audience per screen ratio and things like that. But it is expected to win the weekend, but it's once again going to be an incredibly slow weekend. So victory, just like for Argylle last week, doesn't really seem like it's going to mean much of anything. The one difference that Lisa Frankenstein has is a much smaller budget than a film like Argylle, and so therefore the possibility, the potentiality of the film being able to somehow make some money is actually at least on the table. It's in the cards for the movie. Obviously, it's going to have to perform very well this weekend. It's going to have to perform very well with audiences to have holds going on for the next several weeks. So we'll be following that, of course, as time goes on, but especially as we start to enter into further the month of February and also eventually into March, there are going to be some wide releases that are going to be providing some potential competition for at least those things down the line. But as of right now, not a whole lot of stuff happening at the box office. It's a very sad time for Odin when he's trying to break down these numbers, because it's always better when there's a lot more numbers to talk about. But it also just shows you the current state of the industry. And if anyone was listening to the Disney financial call, the Disney quarterly earnings call yesterday, shout out to Valiant Renegade for amazing coverage of that event. Oh boy, Disney, amongst so many others, are in so much trouble because they're relying on films either that they themselves did not create or films that they are making a prequel, sequel for the sometimes fourth, fifth, sixth time, in fact, and there's nothing original, it seems, in Hollywood these days. There's nothing, it seems, that's going to be moving the needle. Moana 2, I just don't think is going to cut it, but that's for another video. Before going any further, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button on Odyssey, and smash the rumble button as well. And also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So Box Office Pro indeed has the news right now saying that Lisa Frankenstein is expected to make a whopping $6 million. Yes, $6 million compared to Argylle, which in its second week of release, even with a 67% drop, is expected to make $5.8 million. Just to give you an idea of how slow this weekend is, right? So Argylle is 67% lower, and the brand new film is expected to be barely above 67% of Argylle's opening weekend, of which was an awful weekend. So we just have to keep that in mind and in context, that when you start to hear a lot of the people in the media, especially the box office media, trying to argue that this is somehow, this great, strong opening for Lisa Frankenstein, the new film by Diablo Cody, writers of so many amazing films that obviously is for a very specific niche audience. And interestingly enough, it's also directed by Zelda Williams. I, again, not know much a whole lot about this movie, but Zelda Williams, the daughter of Robin Williams, is directing this movie. And so that is what actually garnered my attention. However, I will say that when you look into some of the synopsis of the film itself, whenever you hear in 2024, especially the concepts of, it starts to look into certain themes like identity, that starts to make it kind of be a little bit concerned, because searching for and trying to find one's identity in the past used to mean what most people thought it meant. It's like, I'm trying to find out who I am. In today's world, it's okay, are we starting to delve into mental illness territory or whatever it might be? So again, always take that with a grain of salt. But $6 million is what the film is projected to make, according to Box Office Pro currently. Right now, it seems to be tracking, according to Box Office Pro, tracking below some of the other films that have, I guess, a similar audience that it's going for. As it says right here, the pre-sales is actually trailing those of films like Renfield, which was not a big box office success, and Last Night in Soho, which, as an amazing film as Last Night in Soho was, because it was very solid, was not a big moneymaker at the box office either. It goes on to say that the Super Bowl will drastically depress Sunday moviegoing by 60% or more in many cases relative to Saturday business. And again, I think that typically is honestly a cop-out. I think that if you actually had a movie that people wanted to go see, not even the Super Bowl would be able to keep them from seeing it in its opening weekend. Obviously, you would have some people be impacted by that, but I do think that, a larger audience, let's just say the audience that's predominantly going to be watching the Super Bowl, probably not going to be the audience that's going to be going to see Lisa Frankenstein. Again, there might be some crossover there, but to try to use that as an excuse as to why, one, the weekend box office is going to be low, when the box office has just been low already since long before the Super Bowl weekend, and then on top of that, you're going to be using that especially for the new film that's being released, that does not really have a whole lot of crossover. Again, you don't really have a predominantly male audience, of which is the Super Bowl type audience, going out of their way to see a film like Lisa Frankenstein, written by Diablo Cody. It boggles my mind that they sometimes think that we are that stupid, but here's the world that we live in today. As I mentioned, Argylle is expected to have a massive drop. So Argylle, right now, we can absolutely say, we knew this last weekend, but we can say even more so now, with a $200 million budget reported, 67% drop after a very low opening weekend. This film is a massive, massive flop. And hey, can't really say I'm all that surprised by this company, Apple, who has been spending so much money on these movies, and some of them have been good. I mean, For Killers of the Flower Moon, I actually really enjoyed as a film, but that was not a $200 million budgeted movie. There's no way that movie should have cost that much in order to make it, based on the product that we actually got in return. So what it shows us, and I think what that Disney earnings call told us as well, was, they have a spending problem. And until they're able to get that spending problem under control, in addition to the creative lack of creativity that they have right now, right? This void of creativity they have right now, they're not going to be able to get people back. They're not going to be able to draw people out. I mean, honestly, Disney has only one film, I think, that could be on paper an actual box office success, and that's the upcoming Deadpool movie. But even that one, it's not always guaranteed that's going to happen. Again, I do think that Ryan Reynolds is going to be able to bring a lot of people who've kind of soured on the MCU out because, Deadpool is a very unique entity. It is still something that we remember within the Fox universe and not within the Disney franchise universe. The fact that they were able to get, Hugh Jackman to come back to play the role that he had, been very clear that he had retired from, I think that is going to be enough to make a successful movie. So I think that that's going to be the one bright spot they have. But if they think that Deadpool is going to be the reason why people then go to see Inside Out 2, or just like they announced the other day, Moana 2, or any of the other sequels, prequels, remakes, reimaginings that they are working on, because that's all that they have, I'm sorry, but I got news for you. It's just not going to happen at this point. So anyway, with Wonka, 32% drop there, so still holding around, but you can see the reason why you're having such a massive increase compared to previous weeks is probably just because of the fact that it's been out for it's going into now its 10th weekend. So this film is on its way out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this film getting pulled from a lot of theaters and yet still performing as well as it is. Beekeeper dropping also down to the number 4 spot, projected 41% drop. I think that this film has probably made the vast majority of what it's going to make. It would not be surprising to me to see these films like Beekeeper, because again, if we're going to use the analogy or the analysis that, it's the Super Bowl weekend, and so that Sunday number is going to be a lot lower, it's going to probably have a much higher impact on more male-dominated audience films than anything else. And so that's why Beekeeper probably will end up having a pretty sizable drop. But of course, we will wait and see. The film has on paper been able to reach that point of breaking even profitability territory, but still not nearly as much, I think, as what is being painted. It's being painted as this huge box office hit, but on paper, as far as what the raw net gain is, that's just not really the case. Migration, 28% hold there. So this film also, this little engine that could, is still going onwards, making some more money, adding to its profits. Still also not a big money maker either, similar to Beekeeper. But again, I think that this is a film that they're definitely happy has done better down the road and down the stretch. Anyone But You, again, the random rom-com that somehow also did a lot better than expected. 30% drop there. Mean Girls is still falling quite a lot, 40% drop there. American Fiction, Poor Things, these are Oscar bait movies. I will say, though, American Fiction is actually pretty good. It's actually a pretty rad film, whereas Poor Things, I just have no interest in seeing it because of the subject matter and just how they portray a child's mind inside a woman's body and the things that they have men do. Again, to me, says a lot more about Hollywood, and again, only Hollywood could come up with a story with that being the case. Someone had asked in the comments section about Poor Things, and so I figured I would mention it. The film has made right now $79.5 million. What's interesting, though, is that means the largest portion of this movie's money is actually coming internationally. And so because of that, even though right now on paper, if you look at the charts, because we love charts here on OMB Reviews, you see that the film right now, let me see if I can find the exact category. So right now it's around $4.8 million in the red. So it's on the cusp of breaking even. It only needs to make $87.5 million to break even using a typical 2.5 multiplier. But because of, and we would talk about this now for a while, but also the last couple weeks especially, because of that predominance in the international market, what that means is that Poor Things has to make a bit more to actually break even. And so even though it is clearly seeing a bit of a resurgence among the people that actually care about the Oscars still, by the way, screw the Oscars. They've been awful for years. Check out the Raven Awards. Vote for the Ravens. It's an amazing show. 6th annual Raven Awards here, hosted on this channel, Oscars Boycott Show. It'll be a lot more fun. Poor Things, not really a contender in any way, except for maybe being one of the most overrated films of the year. But I digress. $79 million is still very good for a movie like that, but having cost still around as much as what it did, costing around $35 million, means the film does need to make around 87.5 to 100 million, again, using 2.5 to 3 times multiplier. But we also have to keep in mind that it's ultimately going to be determined on how much more money does it make domestically versus internationally, because right now that split is not going in its favor. It's similar to why you also have films like Beekeeper, where it's making a lot of money domestically, but also a lot of money internationally. And so because even though right now, again, using a traditional system, it's $13 million of profit, it's actually a lot less when you, again, use the RCC, the random crazy charting method that actually brings you to a much more realistic take on it. But looking at this number right here, again, Lisa Frankenstein cost $13.4 million, and so it only has to make 33.5 roughly to actually break even. So a $6 million start, not that great. However, if the thought process is that, well, once the Super Bowl is over, people are going to flock out to go see Lisa Frankenstein, I just don't see that happening. If it is, though, able to hold strong with the female demographic that is clearly being marketed to as a Diablo Cody movie, then it might have that chance of being able to down the line. But as of right now, a $6 million opening is not typically going to be enough to cut, making back $33.5 million. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, early indications seem, unless, again, it's got a lot of positive reviews, a lot of good word of mouth, it may not be in the cards, but of course, that could easily change. The film actually has to come out. People have to actually see it before we can make any further analysis on that. And just some random updates, as I mentioned, with Beekeeper. Again, on paper, it has made some money, but not nearly as much when you take into account a larger portion coming from the international market. Mean Girls, again, making a lot more domestically than internationally, is also still barely on that break-even point. Nothing compared to the original film by any means. Night Swim, again, barely profitable at this point. Poor Things is, as I mentioned previously, one that could, on paper, break even, but it's hard to say because of that international number. The Boys and the Boat is around 28 million in the red. Ferrari is still a massive flop. Color Purple is still a massive flop. Migration, making a little bit of profit, but really not all that much. Iron Claw on the cusp of breaking even. Hope the film is able to, on paper, break even. I know a lot of people have said that when it opens in the UK, that because there's a strong wrestling audience in the UK, maybe that's going to be enough to kind of push it over the edge. But remember, more money in the UK does not necessarily help it because of that 40% take. Anyone But You is still making some profits. Look at that number there, by the way. So this is probably going to be the best performing film of 2024, because look at that number of 2023, 20%. So what that means is that the film made 20% of its entire box office in the first 2 weeks, meaning it's made 80% of its box office in all the weeks following it. And that is very incredible. That means the legs on this film have been insane. The original projections, by the way, were that the film was going to lose lose just a bit of money. But because of how well it did down the stretch, that's why it was able to be a chart breaker in that direction. So kudos to them. And we've already talked a lot about why Aquaman, again, on paper, using very conservative numbers, it's a flop. But when you take into account how much they made internationally, it is $100+ million flop at that. But those are the numbers as they currently stand. So let me know your thoughts about this stuff. Do you think Lisa Frankenstein is going to be any good? Again, the only thing that intrigues me even just the slightest is the fact that it is being directed by Zelda Williams, right? The daughter of Robin Williams. But that's not really enough, I think, to bring most people out to go see a film in theaters. It's not really enough for me to want to go see the film either. And I just, again, have to ask questions as far as, what it is that Hollywood's making. Also, Poor Things, do you think that film is going to be able to make its money back? Again, I think that international number is actually going to hurt it a little bit more. But those thoughts about that or any of the other things I mentioned in the comment section down below, let me know. Also, again, vote for the Ravens. Vote for the Ravens. OMBReviews.com. Check out the Raven Awards tab over there. Again, we'll go ahead and we'll do it live, right? Because that's what we like to do here over at OMB Reviews. So you go over here, you go over to the Raven Awards tab. Once you click the Raven Awards tab, you get the most recent, and it tells you when the nominations were announced, the video of that. There's also a fun little slideshow going into the different nominations. And here where it says vote for the Ravens, you can then open up this form and you can then submit it. Don't worry, it does not ask for or require a Gmail account. So if you're worried about that at all, do not worry. You can enter one in if you want to save your results and edit them later on, things like that. But you do not have to put those numbers in there. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button. Light up that fire button. I see smash the rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. A blessed, blessed day. Can't believe that Lent is less than a week away. Start preparing now. Ash Wednesday is this coming Wednesday. 6 days away. Start to prepare. Lent, it's going to be an amazing time this year. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a very special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off with my Patreon Chosen members, Father Luca Illich, shout out to you, Father. Rosetta Allen, check out her YouTube channel, Eagle Rider. And Miss Martin Muses, check out her YouTube channel by the same name. And to my Subscribe Star peeps, Matt317, check out his Twitch channel by the same name. Mr. Roy and ZK Man, check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, or if you want access to a giveaways channel on my Discord and plenty of other extra content as well, random crazy stuff out there, check out the YouTube memberships and other membership platforms in the top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.